welcome. We have Pablo here from Barrio Dogg. He's owned this restaurant since 2008. He was in real estate prior to this, but he had the love of hot dogs and restaurant ownership. And he brought a new flavor to Barrio Logan, and I'm happy to have him and be having a talk with him and learning more about his journey through entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, so to start off, can you just tell us so growing up, what that looked like for you, where you grew up, and then how you got into real estate? I know a lot of people think going into real estate is kind of hard, and then take us through all that, how you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently here in Barrio Logan, which is just minutes from downtown San Diego. So really the heart of San Diego. And this is the neighborhood that I was born in. And my family still lives in this neighborhood. My dad's grown up here, mom, grandparents. This is the neighborhood that's really dear. So if we talk about the start of where we are now, I think we would take it back to then, to 1978 when I started here. The evolution of the business side has developed over many years of even me starting off knocking on doors and selling household cleaning products in the neighborhood when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
These streets are really dear to my heart, and that's why when we decided to do the Barrio Dogg project, we knew that this is where we needed to begin.
Yeah, so you had always a drive to be an entrepreneur.
You know what, I had young parents. My mom was 17 when she had me, my dad was 21. So right from the start, I grew up in a household with two working parents, always hustling.
Yeah.
So I think it was always instilled in me to have that hard-working drive. Now, part of that was me growing up with my grandma. My mom was 17 when she had me. She hadn't even graduated from high school.
Wow.
So I grew up at the coattails of my grandma's apron. And I think that's where kind of the passion for food came in at a very young age.
Yeah.
You can talk to my grandma now. She's still with us, and she'll tell you that instead of watching cartoons, I would be watching cooking channels. So for something really, really young happened where I found that, I saw the love that my grandma put into food and into taking care of us, and I knew that was something that one day I would want to do. And I would say when it started to come to fruition was at the age of 8. My uncle was a restaurateur here in San Diego.
Okay.
His restaurant, the latest one, was La Diligencia, which is right up the street from where we are now. It was right across the street from Memorial Junior High. And as a kid, I was running around the restaurant.
Yeah.
So that combination of my grandma and growing up with her, and then now being able to experience a restaurant, I think I had that moment at the age of 8 where I said, one of these days I want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to do this. And I can remember one of my cousin Tommy, he was an artist. And I said, hey Tommy, one day when I have my restaurant, you're going to come in and you're going to do some art for me.
Yeah.
And Tommy's actually one of the persons that helped us design the original card. So everything came back to full circle.
Yeah.
From that moment of being 8 years old to now, a lot of things happened. I went to college, I went to junior college and realized that, school is great, but I had this drive for business. And so at the age of 21, I got my real estate license. And I started to sell real estate. And I really enjoyed it. And it was actually because of real estate that I had opportunities open up to me to be able to get into the restaurant business.
Yeah.
My first restaurant that I opened was in 2008. I purchased an Italian restaurant called Bellagio in Tierra Santa, so just north of here. I was young, in my 20s, and I wanted to experience it. I put everything into it, worked it for 4 years, learned a lot, but also learned a lot what not to do. I kind of paid for my own restaurant business education, if you say, because I'm not professionally trained in culinary arts. It comes from passion. I cook from experience. I cook from what I want people to taste, and by God's blessing, it's aligned with what people want to taste.
Yeah.
But I don't have a culinary degree, and I'm not a chef. It comes from the trials and tribulations of getting beat up
Yeah,
by the first restaurant. So at 2012, I sold that restaurant and I got back into real estate. And I partnered up with my compadre Ernesto, who also too had been in real estate for a long time. And we started a loan team and we started to do mortgages together. And that's where him and I started to really work well. I had known my compadre Ernesto, who was a partner in Barrio Dogg, since we were 17. But this is the first time that we got to work together. But I think that that's what really developed that relationship that now has us in Barrio Dogg, right? So we worked together at that. And in that, we always said that, you know what, one of these days, we're going to leave all these loans and we're going to go and we're going to make hot dogs. Why hot dogs? Because him and I have a passion for Baja racing. And the hotel that we would always stay at, Mar, outside the hotel, there would be a little hot dog cart.
Yeah.
Not the taco cart. Yeah, tacos are good, but there would always be the little hot dog cart. So that 2 in the morning, you're like coming back to the hotel and you want a hot dog. So we said that one of these days we're gonna move to Cabo, like as a retirement project, and sell hot dogs on the beach. I'm not worried about anything. That turned into him and I playing with hot dogs, like for UFC fights or for boxing matches or for someone's birthday party. We would go back and forth throwing together hot dog items, and we would share it for friends. Nothing more than that.
Right.
And then I would say 3 years ago, we started to spend more time back in the neighborhood because there started to be a resurgence of business passionate people coming to Barrio Logan.
Yeah.
You've interviewed Milo, him being one of them. It's the reason that we're here. A friend of mine opened up a tattoo shop down the street, and my compadre and I came down here. I was with my son, and we walked around, and we said, you know what? Why are we gonna wait for that dream?
Right.
We should do it now.
Yeah.
We should not wait. This is the perfect place for it. So from that conversation, a week later, we were sitting down at my dinner table with his wife, my comadre, and my wife, and we're like, all right, we're ready. We're gonna do this.
So you're trying to move
And
fast.
so Barrio Dogg was written down on a piece of paper. We already had hot dogs that we had made.
Yeah.
So it's not, we weren't having to create something from scratch.
Yeah.
But the battle just begun then, because what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you take it from an idea and bring it to reality? So we walked the block and we found a space that both him and I just, like, we felt it. You know, when you walk in and you're like, wow, this is where we want to be.
Yeah.
But again, where do you take the next step? So we started to do some research as to who was the owner, found out who the owner was. The day we were supposed to have a meeting, we found out that the property had been sold. So it kind of was like,
wow.
we got like punched, like, oh man, what's going on? And then at our lunch meeting, when we found out that the property had been sold, we had our friend walk in from the tattoo shop and say, hey, do you know who bought the building? And it ends up that we ended up knowing the person who bought the building because of real estate relationships that had been built in the past.
Yeah.
Not on a personal level, but we know who the person was. So it was easy to pick up the phone and say, hey, we are interested in business in Barrio Logan. We like your property. What can we do?
Yeah.
The doors were opened up to us. 600 square feet is what we had to work.
Yeah.
So we didn't have much.
Tiny.
We had 600 square feet. How do we do this? Because we always planned for Barrio Dogg to be the sit-down restaurant that you see now.
Yeah.
But we also knew that we didn't want to wait. We didn't want us to be able to look back and say, man, if we would have just done it then. You know, because that happens a lot to people. They have all these dreams and then you see it on TV the next day.
Yeah.
You're like,
I thought of that.
Damn, you know?
Yeah.
So we knew we needed to do something. Him and I both have a lot of passion in Baja racing and building cars and off-road. So we knew that we could build something that would get us through for the first phase. So we built a hot dog cart out of a 64 Impala. We contacted many people, but it came down to the guy who would help us with our race cars, Lonnie Sparks. He's in Casa de Oro. He's an amazing fabricator. We came to him literally with the ugliest sketch because I can't draw. The art that you see here is not mine, right? So I sketched what I could to look like a 64 Impala hot dog cart, and we took it to him, and he was able to make that a reality for us. We started meeting at my house in March of 2017, and we opened doors for the first time Barrio Dogg on August 25th of 2017. So it was a very quick process, but because it came from the heart.
Yeah.
We weren't having to think about, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? It came from within, and it was very, very fluid in it coming together with the connection to this guy. With this, it felt right. It felt right.
Yeah.
So come August 25th, we opened the doors with 2 hot dogs. We had La Virgen and El Cholito. We were on a hot dog cart. We didn't even own our own refrigerator yet. Wow. We worked the first day out of coolers. Yeah. The hot dog cart had a refrigerator, but the backup, we were in coolers. Yeah. We bought one the very next week, but I'm saying this is how much of a hard project this was. And it was a faith project because we basically took everything that we had and said, here, we're going to do this because we know we're going to make something successful. Yeah. So that happens August 25th. The first day we open business is the La Vuelta Festival, which is the end of the summer festival here in Barrio. You guys have to check it out. It's a car cruise that starts in April every other Wednesday with a culmination at the end of a 1-day block party. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. So we weren't ready to open yet. We were hanging pictures in the gallery the night before, but they wanted us to be a part of it, and we felt blessed to be a part of it. So we opened up, and the first day we sold 450 hot dogs. So we're like, uh-oh. There's something. Yeah. There's something here, right? And so what we did was, we grew the business as we grew, and a lot of it was, hand-to-hand combat with people walking by because no one knew of Barrio Dogg before. There had never been a hot dog cart popped out of a gallery every day trying to make a business, right? So we would talk to people walking by. Hey, come on over, get a hot dog. And it grew from that, and social media is crazy. We've aligned ourselves with Eric Casas, who's a brilliant marketing guy who helped us a lot with social media, and that helped us capture a lot of new people to try what we're trying to do. All of our hot dogs are 100% Black Angus beef. Yeah. So something that people have is a misnomer for hot dogs, right? Like, oh my God, I don't eat hot dogs. You don't know what's in it, right? And I was the same way. Like, I was like, I don't know if I want to eat that. Yeah. So we aligned ourselves with Brand Farms. They're a grass-fed farm from Raleigh, California. Raleigh's like an hour and a half from where we're standing right now. Wow. You could drive over there and see the cows. It's a beautiful, beautiful farm, family-owned for 45 years. Yeah. No antibiotics, no fillers, no nitrates. So I can tell you what's in your hot dog. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. It's a different experience. Our bread we make fresh daily, Sonora style. So it's fluffy in texture, sweet in flavor, not your normal hot dog bread. You say Sonora style. So a lot of people don't know that Mexico is known for hot dogs. Outside of your taco stands, every region of Mexico has its own style of hot dog. Oh wow. From the Baja style, which is TJ, kind of what I do with my cholito, those flavors. If you go to Sonora, they do it one way with, the mayo and tomatoes and grilled onions, very specific. If you go to Sinaloa, they have their own type of hot dog. So
did that inspire you?
It was definitely an inspiration. Definitely to know that I wanted to share that with people. Yeah. That there are flavors that people haven't even experienced. Yeah. Yeah. So we went with the traditional Sonora bread because to me, I felt like it was best for what I wanted to do with my bread. Right. We bacon wrap anything on our menu. So bacon is really important. We use Daily Farms Applewood smoked bacon, only the best. Another non-GMO farm. So
But how did
making sure.
that, what were those conversations? Like, did you sit down with your co-owner and just
Oh
say,
yeah,
like,
it was a lot of conversations, and more than conversations, trying a lot of stuff, testing
Right.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we wanted to give an excellent product.
Yeah.
We knew that from the beginning. That it wasn't like we're gonna go for second place. Right? We want to make sure people are tasting a premium, high quality hot dog.
Yeah.
So we tried a lot of different stuff.
So did you like survey people? Did you
It was
just
we
ask
had
them?
we had 16 weeks of trial prior to opening, where we invited friends, family, and people from the neighborhood to try different products with us. Okay, so it was a lot of feedback. We also had done family parties with different products to get feedback, and I'm talking about from what cheese to use, to what produce. We ended up aligning ourselves with FV Produce, who's literally on Logan Avenue, because I said, we want to get the freshest, then we have to get the freshest.
Yeah.
So our produce comes to us every day from down the street.
Did you ever get like the harsh feedback, and then how did you take that? And,
You know what?
You know.
I think what we learned in the testing is that people have different palates. And we knew that at some point we would have to expand our menu.
Yeah.
Right? So it couldn't just be flavors of Mexico. Because a lot of people don't eat spice.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we knew that we had to expand our menu. So I think if there was a challenge at the beginning was thinking outside of that box.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we created a menu based on experiences, places you've been to, things you've tasted before. I mean, I have a sandwich inspired hot dog, the samurai. So the Vietnamese banh mi sandwich is a fast food staple in the Asian culture that I love.
Yeah.
And the flavors that I enjoy, we put those into a hot dog. You know, if you go to an Oktoberfest, you want to taste sauerkraut, grilled onions, and stone ground mustard and pickle.
Yeah.
I have that. But our sauerkraut we bring from Hamburg, Germany, because I want to give people an authentic experience.
Yeah.
So all of the hot dogs have a reason. And I think that I got that because of those trials that we had.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so like because I mean I think it's interesting to know like how, because sometimes people give up, right?
Yeah.
So like they'll go and purchase a restaurant, they'll not do so well, and then they'll go back and be like, okay, I'm going back to school, or I'm going back to real estate because it's comfortable. How did you get over those thoughts, and did you ever have those thoughts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I left the restaurant business in 2012, I had a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
I got beat up. You got to remember, 2008 to 2012 in San Diego County was one of the worst times to open a restaurant. Actually, restaurants were closing by the dozens every month because of the economic recession that we went through with the real estate market.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I knew that I had that passion in me from the beginning. I knew that the experience that I had in the 4 years had somewhat tainted that, but I knew that it was still there.
Yeah.
When I got back into real estate, it was because of necessity.
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to get back, get myself stable enough to continue on what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
which is food. It's always been that. But it took a long time. I didn't see myself doing another restaurant, like I said, until retirement age. It was going to be like, yeah, this is what we're going to do when we retire. But I felt unsatisfied by making that move.
Yeah.
Not unsatisfied economically or with the amount of work that I had, but me, what I was designed for was for hospitality.
Yeah.
I feel like when people are in my restaurant, they're in my house.
Yeah.
That's what I'm designed for.
Yeah.
I'm really good at crunching numbers and getting you the loan that you need, but I feel that I was designed for this.
It's your purpose, right?
Purpose. So I feel that given the opportunity to do it again, I knew that there was no way that we weren't going to be the best.
Yeah.
And that's the team that we've created. This is not me. this is not me by myself.
Yeah.
I have amazing partners. I have an amazing wife. I have a team here who have dedicated themselves to be the best. No one just comes to work. No one's allowed to just come to work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Everybody shares in that same passion.
Yeah. And so how'd you grow that team? So, you know, obviously like your family's your family and they support you, but how did you grow everybody else?
So, I learned from the first restaurant to set expectations. And they're not your own personal expectations, where they can be, but sometimes the restaurant's expectations have to be higher than your expectations.
Yeah.
Right? So that when you lay it down, it's not Pablo's rules, it's Barrio rules.
Yeah.
And this is the level and this is the way we do things. All of the hot dogs that you see on Instagram and Facebook and on Twitter, wherever you see them, we're not taking stock photos. Those are photos of guests who come and eat the hot dog.
Yeah.
Why? Because we do every single hot dog the same every single time.
Yeah.
You know, as kids we grew up and you see that Big Mac commercial and then you're like, you get there and you're like,
it doesn't look like it. Yeah.
Right? I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we just set the expectations from the very beginning. Now, the team that you see here is not the team that we started with.
Yeah.
Correct? Because you start to see that not everybody can meet that same expectation. Doesn't make them bad. It just doesn't make them the right person for this project.
Yeah.
You can still be an amazing chef, an amazing manager, an amazing this, but if you aren't meeting the expectations of Barrio Dog, then you just don't fit with it.
So you set up the principles, the values.
Absolutely. Core values, expectations, guidelines, procedures, set those up from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's something that I faulted at in the first one. Why? Because I bought somebody else's restaurant. Buying somebody else's restaurant is like buying somebody else's headache. There's a reason why they want to sell it.
Yeah.
If it was thriving and everything was going great, they would still be there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until later.
Yeah.
So I came in trying to set expectations into something that had already been set, and it was a constant challenge. So I said, not here, not here. From here, we set the expectation, and then we gauge on that.
Yeah.
And we've had turnaround, and you will have turnaround. But ultimately, you can never lose focus as to where you want to be as a business.
Yeah. What was your biggest struggle? So when it's, you know, you had your first restaurant, you're like, this isn't working, went back to real estate, now you started your hot dog stand, you started, you know, just out on the street selling it, and then you got this, you know, nice facility here. What was your biggest struggle through all of that?
There was definitely a lot of challenge.
Right.
So we weren't expecting to grow at the rate that we did. We knew we wanted to be successful. Obviously, you know that when you set a project, you're like, these are our numbers, this is what we want to hit, we need to hit them by this date. We're all the partners in this are all business savvy. So we knew that this wasn't we're not just gonna throw our money in the air and hope that something happens, right? But we didn't know how quickly it was gonna happen. And that the cart would only be able to help us for so long. So by October, that had happened. So we opened August 25th, and by October we're like, oh, we need to do something.
Yeah.
We need to do something because we're cooking an outrageous amount of hot dogs. We have limited space. We don't have a bathroom. We can only sit 16 people. You know, we're working out of a commissary kitchen. We're rolling this cart in every day.
Yeah.
There were a lot of challenges that ultimately we needed to find a solution quickly. Now, knowing that you need a solution is one thing. Finding it is the other.
Yeah.
That's where fate happens in this project.
Yeah.
So the space that we're in right now is a space that I ate at when I was 7 years old. This used to be Siete Manos, a Mariscos restaurant.
Yeah.
My dad used to bring me here. We're sitting on the dining room side. The other side, which is now divided by a wall, used to be the bar. Kids weren't allowed. I was only on this side. This project, as a restaurant space, had been vacant for 3 years. Someone had come in and started a renovation, but couldn't continue with their project. Basically, they had brought in a couple of tables, a couple of refrigerator units and stopped paying rent.
Wow.
Things just didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it happens. Well, the owner of this building at the time also owned the building where I was at. Mind you, this is the only space on Logan Avenue that had an existing brewery. Okay? So he calls me and he says, "Hey, are you guys ready for a restaurant?" And it was like, wow.
This is perfect timing.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So I went back to my house and I talked to my wife and I said, "Hey, I have something to tell you."
Yeah.
Mind you, she now has taken on our real estate business because I couldn't do both. When we decided to do this project, I gave myself 100% to this project. So in October now, I'm telling her, "Hey, you know what? I think it's time to move on to the restaurant." Well, she flipped out. She flipped out for about 45 minutes, and then I was able to talk to her about what we needed and why we needed it.
Yeah.
So we made the decision. We came together again as all partners, and we decided that yes, this is something that we needed to do. Now, mind you, we had spent all of our capital to start the business.
Yeah.
Okay. This was just a few months before.
Yeah.
Now you have the opportunity to get a restaurant, but you don't have the capital that you need.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was definitely a decision based on faith. We signed the lease. We were able to have enough for a first month's deposit and the security deposit,
Yeah.
right? And we asked the landlord to give us 60 days before giving us the keys so that we can figure things out. And in that, there was a lot of prayer. There was a lot of, meetings of how we're going to do this, but it came together.
Yeah. So you basically said, okay, I'm gonna rent this place, and the first 2 months we're gonna make it. And
We have to make.
Yeah,
we're gonna
we have
find
to,
it.
yeah.
We're not. I said we're not gonna break ground until we figure out how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So we took the first 60 days of just drawing everything out on paper.
Yeah.
What does it look like financially? How much do we really need? We just built something. We have this contact here who can help us with this, that electrician. And so we put everything together.
Cool.
And we were able to say, okay, this is what's needed.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And we waited until January to get the keys.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want to come in, start something while trying to run something and not even knowing how I'm going to finish this.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was definitely a challenge for us. So January we come in and we start our demo. We get our architect together, plans, and then it just starts to roll.
Yeah.
It starts to roll. It starts to roll. April, we finished up the last week of April. We had the Food Network in here filming right before we opened up. So it was just like a dream.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
We made this happen, but it was a collective group that made it happen.
Yeah.
We opened up here on Cinco de Mayo.
Oh.
So Cinco de Mayo was our first day of business here.
Nice.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How did you? So talk about the importance of your network, because you talk about you had to pull this electrician, you had to pull this
Yes.
other person,
Yes.
and then you got somebody from the Food Network. I'm sure that's through your network.
Yes.
How important is building that network and you talk about, because I know a lot of people they think about like networking events or just going out and meeting people and they don't think it's important, but can you talk about?
It's absolutely important.
Yeah.
I think you are only as good as the people who are around you.
Yeah.
You can't do this on your own.
Yeah.
And you have to know, I always say aces in their places. Who is the best at what they do?
Yeah.
And knowing that is how you come together as a team and you put together a really strong project.
Yeah.
The relationships that we've built along the years are what made this space, what made Barrio Dogg. Everything is networking to me.
Yeah.
To me, everybody I talk to is a networking opportunity. People have a lot to offer that you don't know unless you ask.
Yeah.
And you tell them about you. There's a lot of interesting people walking around. The problem is that we've gotten so caught up with this,
Yeah.
is that we lose sight that there's a world out there that can really help each other. I couldn't have done this on my own.
Yeah.
Couldn't have done it.
Well, because a lot of people use that as like a crutch, right? They say,
Yeah.
I don't know the right person to get the wiring or the wires right. I don't know the right person to, you know, do filming or anything like that.
Ask.
You know, so yeah.
Ask.
Yeah.
And usually one person will lead you to the next, will lead you to the next, and will lead you to the next.
Yeah.
That's how this project has been. But the problem is not in asking. The problem is getting past that uncomfortableness of asking, right? I think that this project happened because we made the right phone calls at the right time.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
We made the right phone calls at the right time. The day that I found out that it had been sold, instead of me crumbling up and saying, man, it's over, I said, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
We found out who the owner was. I was sitting at a bar. I don't drink, but I sat down and I bought him a beer and I pitched Barrio Dogg to him that day.
Yeah.
You have to maximize and capitalize on opportunities.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And so now that you've gone through this journey, you've started up, you're going, you're successful. What's the next 3 years, 5 years look like? Are you know, I know you're doing more events.
Yes.
You know, you're putting on more stuff for the community. Is that something that you're gonna, you know, obviously continue with?
We definitely grow through community involvement.
Yeah.
And we want to get involved with other communities as well. Barrio Dogg was built as a project that was going to be multi-city.
Yeah.
There's barrios all over the United States that would love to be able to have a place where you can enjoy a cultural setting and eat food that's dear and near to your heart. The dishes that you see on my side dish, you can't walk to a taco shop and get them. You can't go to a restaurant. Your aunt has to make them for you. Your grandma has to cook for you. And so I feel that we want to share that. We want to share that. So we definitely built Barrio Dogg to be a multi-city project, right? When we wrote down Barrio Dogg, our goal was to be in Japan within 5 years.
Wow.
Because a lot of people don't know that Japan has the highest concentration of lowriders outside of the United States.
I did not know that.
Yeah. They embraced American automotive after World War II, and then in the late 80s, early 90s, embraced lowriding as not only a car building thing, but as a culture.
Yeah.
I mean, they dress like us, talk like us, walk like us, build like us. And they enjoy the same things we do. So I want to go over there and share it.
Yeah.
You met with Bobby from Tribal. Bobby has Tribal stores in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, so we definitely want to be a part of that. But domestically here, there's LA, there's Arizona, there's Texas, there's Colorado. There's all kinds of places that I would love to see Barrio.
Yeah. And so, what do you foresee as being like the biggest struggle in that when you're expanding to different cities?
So the biggest struggle is going to be to make sure that we are ready before taking the next move. Because you get a lot of offers. I've already gotten offers for people to say, hey, I want to take it to Florida, or I want to take it to here, or I want to take it to here. And I think the biggest struggle is going to be making sure that we're ready before moving to that next phase. And that's what the next 12 months for us is here in this location.
Yeah.
This Barrio Logan, Barrio Dogg, this is where we're from. This is where all the creation happens. This is always going to be the headquarters for what we do everywhere else.
Yeah.
But I can't go anywhere else unless we are ready here.
Yeah.
So really, I think plugging in here, but still keeping that vision for the opportunities that present themselves.
Where does that mindset come from? I feel like there's a lot of taquerias, hair salons that don't have the idea of, okay, I'm going to go to Colorado, to LA.
Yeah.
They don't have that mindset. Where does that mindset come from you? How do you think that? How did you think big like that?
You know what? I've had a lot of great mentors in my life. And what I've learned from them is to not think small. To not think small. That a lot of times we set our own limits.
Yeah.
You know, those boxes that are created are built by somebody.
Yeah.
And those somebodies are usually us. And so I feel that if you can dream big, then you can achieve big. And so the countless mentors, from my pastor to business mentors, have always really taught me to be a big dreamer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. It's interesting to hear that, and because of those hair salons and companies that they don't open up the multi-city locations or anything like that. So it's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Do you have what is the biggest advice you would give somebody going into a journey of entrepreneurship? What is that one thing you would say to somebody that wants to do something similar to you?
I think I would say do what is passionate to you. Never do it for the money.
Yeah.
I always say focus on the activity and the results will follow. If you're a person who is saying, I want to do this because I want to get rich.
Right.
No, getting rich is a result of what you did. Or do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of people think that being a business owner is lucrative, and it is, but it's also very much a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And in the restaurant business, you won't see a penny for the first 4 years.
Yeah.
If you make it 4 years,
Yeah.
you get it, but you have to have that faith and that drive to say, no, this is going to come from me. This is going to be passionate. I'm going to make sure that I project that and I reach that successful point. The other thing is I say never give up. Never give up. There's always a solution, or there's always a way to realize that goal which you've set.
Yeah.
A lot of times we feel like giving up at the breaking point of our success.
Right.
Because that's the way things happen. Like right when you're about to hit that breaking point is when you feel the most like those obstacles come about. But usually if you can work past those breaking points, your success is at the end.
Yeah. Because if you're not passionate too, right? It's easy for you to give up.
If you're not passionate, you're gonna give up.
Yeah.
If you're not passionate, you're going to give up. So that's why I said, number one, only do something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
If you're not passionate about it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. And then I guess the last question, I know you talk about, your tia lives right across the street. What does that mean to you? Like, what does it mean to be in your neighborhood?
Still dreamlike.
Yeah.
Still dreamlike. Because like I said, we're sitting in a restaurant that I ate at when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Salud, which is down the street, used to be Porky Land. My grandma used to take me there to eat carnitas.
Yeah.
I used to play at the park that's down the street. My tia's right here. I mean, it's a dream.
Yeah.
I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Everybody that's in this neighborhood, I feel like family to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way we treat people here, and that's why it's an experience that I want to give people. It's not just about our hot dogs.
Yeah.
If you want a good hot dog, come to Barrio Logan. But if you want an experience of the culture
Yeah.
of what we have to offer, then come hang out.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you. I appreciate you
Absolutely.
talking to us.
Yeah.
Great journey, great story.